Hello and welcome to the Combined Joint Task Force DCS Refresher Course video series. This lesson is intended for use by members of the VMFA 122 Werewolves Virtual Squadron and will cover the DCS A-10C aircraft. Let's begin with the startup procedure. Turn on the battery, inverter, and left and right AC generator power. Turn on all four of the main boost pumps and the APU start. Turn on the anti-skid, left MFCD, arm the laser and TGP. Turn on the KICU, the IFCC, uncage the SAI. Turn on the right MFCD, change the countermeasure selector knob to semi and turn on all of its systems. Turn on the oxygen, the IGI and the CDU, change the steer point to flight plan. Turn on all three of your radios. Go ahead and turn on the APU generator power. Start the left engine. Go ahead and close the canopy. Turn on the yaw and pitch SAS. Hold for takeoff trim. Go ahead and set our lights panel. Put our position to steady. Turn on our formation lights. Go ahead and hit our pinky switch to aft for later. Turn off the APU generator. Start the right engine. Hit load all. While that's loading, note that if you do not have the jamming pod or the targeting pod on the aircraft at startup, you will need to leave the targeting pod switch off and the jamming pod switch off until they are loaded. Go ahead and set the right MFCD to the CDU page so that we can track the align. And we'll set up our GBU 12s. Go to Profile, GBU 12, place it in CCRP mode. Auto lay is on for 15 seconds prior to impact and save. Go ahead and turn on the JTRS and turn off the APU start and arm the ejection seat. Now we are ready. We just need to wait for the nav to align to finish the startup. While I'm waiting on that, I will briefly discuss the radios. This is the VHF AM radio, and this is the VHF FM radio, and this is your UHF radio. In order to set a preset, leave the radio in main and press the load button with the channel selected that you want to use. To use the channels, change the selector knob to preset and then select the channel you want to use. This method is the same for both the AM and the FM radio. To set up presets on the UHF, you would need to flip this up, place the selector knob in preset, select your frequency you want to use and your channel, and then press the red load button. Change the frequency, channel, and load. That's how you preset the radios. We'll go ahead and cut the video and come back whenever the nav is aligned. Nav is now aligned, as you can see by the 4008 and the INS nav ready flashing. Press nav, select the EGI, turn on the EAC and the radar altimeter, and your lights panel should be clean. That means we are now ready to taxi to the runway. Request taxi.
Cabo Lady, Colt 1-1. Request taxi to runway. Colt 1-1. Cabo Lady, clear to taxi to runway 7.
Go ahead and set your course steering knob to 07, which is the runway heading. This will not only allow you to line up better on approach when returning to base, but it will also assist in finding the runway if you cannot use the map or the external cameras in the aircraft. Because I can see that the runway is in front of me, I know that in order to get to that end of the runway, I need to turn out left on the taxiway. Let's go ahead and turn on our taxi lights, our anti-collision lights, and turn on the pitot heat. Turn on the nose wheel steering, and we are ready to move to the taxiway. I will not cover taxiing or takeoff as this is a refresher course. I will now cut to in-flight and go over weapons deployment. Before we begin the weapons deployment phase, I would like to go over two methods of creating waypoints. The first will be using a bull's call. I know that my target range is at bulls 193 for 27. To make that a waypoint, I will select the CDU page, hit function 4 to bring up the offset page, function, select rocker down until I reach the bullseye, and then input my coordinates in a 3-digit format of 193, 027. Check my coordinates, then create the waypoint. I know I have a secondary target at a UTM coordinate. I will go ahead and make that a waypoint now. Since I'm already on the CDU page, I hit function 3, click waypoint, make sure to change it from latitude and longitude to UTM, click to create a new waypoint, go ahead and enter a name for this waypoint using the scratch pad, and then enter my coordinates. Double checking my coordinates, we are good to go. Okay, as you can see, my steer point was in flight plan. I will now move it to mission, change my TGP, select air to ground mode. I'll make my right MFCD my center of interest with coolie right long. Go ahead and move my waypoint to waypoint 5, which is the bull's call that I made. Now you can see there's my target range. Check the UTM coordinate I made. There we go, there's my secondary target. Alright, now that I've located my target area, I'm going to go ahead and switch my right MFCD and left MFCD with coolie down short and begin to mark my targets. I'm going to prioritize SAM threats first. Note that I'm using my laser as I'm making mark points to increase the accuracy. Alright, I'm off target. I already wore my MAV up while I was en route. Go ahead and turn my master arm on. Go ahead and select my Mavericks from the DMS page. Change my steer point to mark point. Using China hat forward long, slave my Maverick to my first mark point. You can use the steer point rocker on the UFC to quickly switch to the mark points, and China hat forward long to slave the Maverick to the mark point, China hat forward short to zoom in, and TMS up to force the lock. Winchester Mavs rolling out left. All 6 targets down. Making the HUD my center of interest. Using DMS left to switch to the GBU 38s. Going to bring us around from the water for a 4-strike GBU pass. I'll cut till I'm inbound. Okay, I'm on approach. Going to weapons release on the first mark point that I have selected, and then rapidly switch through mark points and drop until all weapons have been released. Pickle. All 4 targets have been destroyed. I'm going to go ahead and make my HUD center of interest. DMS left short to switch to the GBU 12. Make my left MFCD center of interest with coolie left long. Switch my steer point. Slave my TGP to the new steer point with China hat aft long, and line up for a GBU 12 strike. Okay, I'm approaching the target. I can see the countdown at the top of the HUD on the vertical bar. When the number begins to drop, I will press and hold the weapons release. Pressing and holding. As it passes through the pipper, the bomb is away. Now I just have to make sure that the targeting prod can continue to see the target. Auto lays engaged. Target destroyed. Okay, that completes the PGM portion of the weapons refresher. Now going to drop to altitude and conduct a gun run on the last remaining target. Okay, lining up on target, my gun is armed. Press the master mode select switch to get the gun reticle to appear. Try to line up the target as best as I can. Press and hold gun stage 1. Fire several bursts, break off target. Target is hit and burning. I will now discuss the air-to-air capabilities of the A-10. On my right wing I have 2 AM-9 heat-seeking missiles, and you can also use guns. I will start by putting my TGP in air-to-air mode, and then making my HUD the center of interest with coolie up short. Now I'll press and hold the master mode switch to enter air-to-air mode. That tone is the AM-9 actively seeking a heat source. You can press TMS up short to start the search in the top center. You can press China hat aft to recenter it. Press China hat forward short to uncage the AM-9s where they will search the HUD. Also, if you press DMS left or right, you can switch the gun profile. As you can see here, I'm currently in AH-64. You can flip through multiple different profiles. Our targets will be 2 helos, so I will leave it on AH-64, and I will resume the video when I am approaching the targets. I know my targets are following the coast somewhere in this area, so I will try to attempt to locate them, and there's one right there. Went ahead and locking it up. And I got tone. Gonna close. Fox. Boom, got a kill. Alright, our number 2 bird is there, gonna come back around.
Altitude, pull up, pull up. Pull up, pull up. Pull up, pull up.
This concludes the weapon employment phase. Next I will cover navigation. In order to locate an airfield, select the CDU page, hit Function 2, then Divert. This page shows the 4 closest runways. If you are looking for a runway that is not on this list, you can use the TAD and the F10 menu to locate it. I can see my location on the map, and if I'm trying to reach Shikumi, I know that it is north from my location along the coast. Using the TAD, I can make it my sensor of interest, use China Hat forward short, and DMS aft to zoom out. Locate the airfield and make a mark point. Using the same methods discussed in the weapon employment phase, I can set that as my sensor point of interest. For now though, I will select Kabuleti Airfield. This page shows all the information you need to locate and land at the airfield. Note that when selecting an airfield on the Divert page, it automatically makes the airfield your sensor point of interest. On this page you can see the runway headings, the ILS, TACCAN, and the ATC frequency. I will go ahead and set up the ILS. The ILS is 11150. To power on the radio, right click. To turn down the volume of the beacon, left click. To enable the ILS to work, click ILS and enable the bars. As you approach the runway's glide slope, the ILS bars will kick in. In order to use TACCAN, use this. To follow TACCAN to a ground target, use TR for transmit and receive. To follow it to an air target, of which I know there is a tanker on frequency 66, use air-to-air transmit and receive. Once you have your station selected, hit TACCAN. You will notice the one swung around and is now pointing behind me. You can also hear the tone of the TACCAN frequency. That is where the tanker is. That concludes the DCS A-10C refresher course. Thank you for your time and attention.